What's up, everybody? Welcome to Mongols. This is our reaction show where we're going to break down everything that's happened across the Riveters and Riverhounds this past week. I am Mike Sparks. Joining me, almost as always, is Steve Mattiace and Josh Brokaw. Later, we're going to have Liz and Kaz joining us as well, and we have Hacer with Laura Ellen and Mondo. There's just tons of people that are going to be here, so just brace yourself. There's a lot going on in the show. Gentlemen, how was your week? Josh, have you dried out from the Rivs game on Friday night?
Yeah. So first off, get this out of the way here.
Yeah. There you go.
Congratulations, Rivs. Good 2-0 victory there.
Mm-hmm.
Friday sucked. That was such a wet game. It's probably the worst rain game we've had at Highmark in a long time. Like, we've had plenty of rain games at Highmark, but this one was absolutely terrible. It just would not let up, and it kept on getting harder and harder and harder. I'm like, I can't believe this is as bad as it is. So yeah, the fact that they were able to get a win out of that and keep a clean sheet, that's pretty impressive in my eyes.
Yeah. After the game, the team always kind of puts out photos from the match along with a summary. And it was funny looking back at the photos and trying to pick out one of the women that didn't have like spots all over it from the rain that was falling between them and the camera. It just didn't exist. There's just rain in every shot. So yeah, look kind of crazy. Steve, what's good, man?
Oh, not much. Just glad it's not raining. Got a good walk in with Rory this morning, and just enjoying the sunshine a little bit. Just going about life, trying to finish up a busy season at work, and then looking forward to things slowing down over the summer. So
it should be pointed out that Steve skipped the rain game.
Oh, absolutely. And I have no shame about it.
He came to the game that was dry, the Riverhounds game, but he did skip the rainy, terrible weather game.
I mean, I looked at the weather, I looked outside, and I was just like, I just don't want to get absolutely soaked for this. Like, when I'm going to the stadium tomorrow, like, I was exhausted. I didn't sleep all the night before, so it was a really easy decision to make, and I don't feel bad about making it.
I just had to give you crap. That's all.
It's not. I know of numerous people that were at that game and left early, and I won't name names.
Oh, come on. God, come on. This is me giving you crap. You can't give me crap.
I'm just keeping my mouth shut because I didn't make it either. So I'm just going to sort of
you have a little bit of a good excuse. Let's be fair.
Yeah. I did mean to share with you guys last week, and I completely forgot to. So when we went to IKEA, I wanted to get one of these wooden hands, which might have been a creepy entrance into the shot for those who are watching, if you could see.
It was a creepy entrance, and I am here. And I was like, what is with your hand?
I was thinking I wanted to get it for my Eric Dick glove. But now I got to figure out some way to like mount this thing to the wall.
Little shelf back there to stick it on.
Yeah,
I know.
You can put a bunch of little trinkets up there.
I know. I maybe I'll get a shelf, and we could talk again about the Bradley Sample Chia Pet and like other stuff that would make it to that shelf. So I was also disappointed because I was like, oh, this will be perfect. I could have used like a basic 2x4 and just shoved it. I didn't need the full hand. The thumb doesn't even like move out enough to like make a difference in the glove. It's ridiculous. But so I now have an IKEA hand that you always see, people have set up to have different obscenities as you walk through the store. But I have one for Eric Dick's golden glove.
Yeah. I have one for my Power Glove, Nintendo Power Glove.
Oh, sweet.
On display in my room. Yeah.
Nice. All right, gentlemen. Well, let's like we said, there's a lot to discuss in this one. Let's
we've been avoiding.
We're gonna get to that. Let's start with Hey Sir, and then we'll get into how we're gonna address all of this.
And now, Hey Sir, 1 minute reactions with Laura Ellen.
I have been a Riverhounds fan since 2013, and I will be a Riverhounds fan until the day that I die or until this organization dies. And let me tell you, no manager can take away what the Steel Army and this team and what it all means for our city. This was an incredible game. I'm so glad I got to be here. The Steel Army is incredible. The players are incredible. And that's all I have to say about this. Really out!
This has been Hey Sir, 1 minute reactions with Laura Ellen.
Okay, so I want to address something publicly because there's a lot that happened at Highmark Stadium last night. And we've had a lot of conversations kind of behind the scenes about how we want to address this. There are things that we can sort of confirm that we want to discuss publicly. And there are things that we've had conversations about that we know have happened that we are also not going to discuss publicly at this time. What we don't want to do is give the perception that we are actively hiding anything that's happened or that we're siding with one side or the other. Journalistically, we're just going to choose to talk about certain things right now. And there are potentially going to be other things that we may talk about in the future. So just teeing that up for anybody that's listening and was potentially at the game and sort of witnessed different things that were going on. Let's talk about the play on the field first, and then we can sort of circle to all of this other stuff that we're going to get to. The Hounds lost 1-0 to Rhode Island. It was a Jägermeister Cup match. The loss basically guarantees that we're done in the Jägermeister Cup. We have 2 losses. We are the bottom of Group 4. There are 2 other teams at the top, which are Hartford and Rhode Island. They both have 6 points. So even if we were to win our next 2 games, which are against USL League One opponents, the best we could do is 6 points. And even at that, only the top team gets through with 1 wild card that gets through as well. So it's a little bit disheartening to basically be 10 or 11 games into our season. And, basically we're out of the Jägermeister Cup competition after 2 games. But you guys were there. Josh, give me a takeaway from what you saw on the field.
I thought the team actually didn't play terribly. The team itself looked like they were doing what they need to be doing. We almost had the most magical moment ever. The thing I've been waiting for years. We almost had a Robbie Mertz header.
Yeah.
What could have been? It hit the post.
It was
so
close.
sad.
It looked glorious.
Yeah, I mean, it looked in and then it just dribbled in front of the other
I was
post.
so excited. I literally was jumped up and then I just collapsed in the front. And then I forget who it was. Someone was looking for me, where's Josh? Where's Josh? We got he almost had it. And then he just sees me in a crumbled mess at the I'm it was so close.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. It was a great play. Perrin Barnes was sort of streaking down the right-hand side, which he was doing most of the game.
Excellent cross.
Yeah, put the ball right in. Was it Augie or Burton that it went over? They kind of drew the player with him, and then Robbie was there, not even on the back post, just behind him, making a diving header, and it just it ripped right off the post and then just sort of rolled across the goal line, and yeah.
So, I almost agree with Josh's assessment. I don't know that the team played well. I think the players played hard and did what they were asked to do. To me, that doesn't necessarily translate into good play. I think one of the examples for me is Mertz had another opportunity at goal, and I think Lee was the goalkeeper, made an excellent save. This was towards the end of the game. There were 3 players in the box, but they were all in the 6-yard box. And then there's a flank of players outside the 18. And I just don't know what Bob expects these guys to do when he doesn't want those players entering the 18 because he's so focused on what happens in transition the other way. And I want to look at Rhode Island's goal. It was not pretty. It came from good pressure in the box that was a deflection on a clearance. And it was a messy, scrappy goal because Rhode Island wanted to put the players in and force things. And that's what they did. I think our guys are able to do that. I'm proud of the effort that the guys put in. What I'm not proud of is the way that they're being asked to play.
Yeah, I mean that's gonna kind of get into I think a bit of our conversation around sort of the sentiment post match. We will have to kind of pick our top 3 here. I'm not saying that I necessarily think he was in my top 3, but one of my takeaways is that Garcia continues to be like a little spitfire, and when he was brought in as a substitute late in the game, it just brings a different kind of energy in a way that we don't see from the attackers in the starting 11. I thought this was another case where we once again get to see Augie and Berton together. they're making runs, they're doing stuff, but more often than not, it was kind of like individual efforts. We can't get the ball
Mhm.
up the field to have sustained pressure. And there was a moment where it crossed my mind that for a team that is so, I'll say obsessed with possession, because so much was talked about in the offseason about how we want to have possession. We want to have possession.
Mhm.
We played so many long balls in this game that are kind of like hope and prayer kind of things, where you're sending it out wide to Berton, you're sending it
Mhm.
out wide to Etu, and then they're just crossing it into the box. Those are low opportunity chances to score, and that just shows to me that you
Mhm.
have confidence sort of working the ball through the midfield to try to get better chances through the middle. And maybe that's something that, we kind of thought Rhode Island would capitulate on, and that was a way to attack them. But it just felt too much to me like pass it around, center back, center back, center back, center back, long ball. And it's just like, okay, we'll see what happens here.
Well, and I think there's something to dig into in that, right? That the Hounds attempted almost 450 passes. 350 of those were connected passes. But over 200 of those connected passes were in the defensive half. And so it is, yes, it's possession, but it is not possession that is getting things done. And then a lot of those were those long balls you're talking about that are not necessarily leading to things. I like that we were changing the point of attack at times, but you've got to have the runners there. And when you're just putting one guy on the run, and I'm still also wondering, like, is that just the players getting to the point where they're like, you know what, like, this isn't what I'm supposed to do, but there's space, I'm going for it. And some of the defenders or Walty finding them and getting those passes in. I don't know, but it's just not working still.
Yeah.
I guess a question I would have is, we just played Rhode Island the week before and we won 1-0. And now we just lost 1-0. What do you think the difference was between these two games as far as the way we played? Was it just that we got one of those opportunities and we actually put it away instead of hitting the post? Or did something actually feel like there was a difference in this game compared to the last game? Because I'm hard pressed as far as, I guess Dick not being in net is one thing. Did that make the big difference? I don't think so. I don't think that goal was on Randolph at all. So I don't know what the difference was, and if that away win was just a blip or if that's actually indicative of what we should be expecting.
It doesn't surprise me at all that this happened. This reminds me a lot of a couple of years ago when we beat Detroit and then they came for the playoff game and beat us. And what it reminds me of is we went in, we did the same things in both games. Rhode Island came, and that's what's different. They came with a different game plan, just like Detroit came with a different game plan 2 years ago, right? And so it's that we're doing the same thing and expecting it to always work without a change, and it doesn't always work. And another team is coming in. They saw us 7 days ago come in and say, okay, we know what to expect, so now we're going to do something different. And they're tactically flexible and they're changing things. Does that always work out for other teams? No, but I think that it's got the chance to work out. And for me, that's just like, you've got to be doing something different. You can't just grind out the 1-0 wins, the 0-0 ties, and expect that to be good enough. And then expect a team to not adjust to that when they have just seen it recently.
Yeah. Would you use the phrase out-coached?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how you don't win. It's obvious that we have the personnel in this team to beat Rhode Island. We just did it. And so, like, if they're not able to do it again, I do think it had been tactics wise. And it makes perfect sense that a team that just lost against us has, the experience now and knows how to go up against us and is able to utilize that to their advantage. Technically, we should have been able to utilize it to our advantages as well, but for some reason we didn't.
But it's because we didn't coach anything different.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
And Josh, to your point, I think the biggest difference for me between the two games is that we scored off of a set piece in Rhode Island and we didn't in this game. I think offensively, I don't know that we generated any more last week than we did this week. And that continues to be the story here, is that regardless of what's happening, we can't generate any offense from just the run of play. We've had a few games where we've had a couple chances that we, we're getting fortunate, but it's not consistent. And I don't know how you fix that. I really don't.
Yeah. So, that kind of brings up, as I was going back through and reviewing the game this morning, on the broadcast, it sounds like they had a conversation with Bob, and he said he wants the team hitting 15 to 20 shots a game, but that the team is hitting 10 or less most games. And Bob said to them, apparently, that the decision-making in the final third has to be better, and that it was due to availability of personnel on the offensive side. And so this is where I will say what I've said many times. Yeah, you don't have the personnel because you didn't bring in the personnel, but it's also, I don't think that it's the decision-making of the players in the moment. I think it's that the players are stuck between a rock and a hard place of they are good at what they do. We've got players that can do things, but you're asking them to do something else and you're screaming at them when they don't, whether that's from the sidelines or later. I mean, we see it week in and week out, how Bob will just yell at the players when they don't do exactly what he wants. Let the boys play. I mean, they are talented. They have the skills. Stop micromanaging every moment and just let it be. Like, let them go and do something creative, because we've seen that happen. I mean, I think to the point about Garcia, do you really think that the 2 goals he scored, Bob wants him taking those shots? I don't think so. But hey, we've gotten goals out of them.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. The old adage of, when you're pointing your finger at somebody, you got 4 more pointed back at you is kind of applicable here. So, yeah, I mean, to your point, Steve, there was a moment during the broadcast where I should have taken a screenshot of it, but it was sort of Bob sitting on the bench gesticulating towards the players, basically like, can you believe this? And you just see Vincent and Bushy just like staring blankly ahead, like not really saying anything. And it just kind of, it sums it all up for me, where it's like, you can only blame what they're doing on the field so much when it's your job to set up and have them do what you want on the field. So if they're not scoring, you can't always blame them, especially if it was a one-off scenario and it was one game and they weren't executing properly, fine. But this is something that we've seen dating back all the way to midseason last year, where this has been a problem and it just hasn't been addressed.
I want to push it farther than that. I mean, it's in the time that Bob Lilly has been with the Riverhounds, we've rarely had offensive quality that's comprehensive. We've had a player or 2 players that are able to drive into the box or bully defenders when they get the ball. But we haven't had I'm trying to think of the last time we really felt that we had multiple players that could score from 20 yards or closer to the goal whenever they wanted to, right? That the only time that kind of even started to happen was when we had Dequa and Cicerone at the same time.
Yeah. I don't know where to go from here. Do you guys have any other takeaways before we kind of like address the elephant in the room?
We have seen this before, but we've also seen the team turning around mid-season multiple times. It's kind of becoming a rote script at this point, where it starts out slow, terrible, looks bleak, and then something changes in the mid-season and it gets better. I wouldn't say it gets great. A couple seasons it has gone great. There have been those moments where it gets turned around and then suddenly, boom, everything's fantastic. I don't think last year you can really say that. It was more of a it got better, and then we squeaked into the playoffs, and the rest was just downhill from there. But I can't really think of what can change at this point that is going to make that happen. Like in years past, it's been like, oh, we signed someone, we got someone on loan, getting Griffin in out of nowhere and being like, oh crap, that's really helped turn things around. Getting Burton in here and being like, oh, now we have someone who's hot and like scoring goals. Whereas this year he can't even get 10 touches on the ball, period. And so it's just, I don't know. It feels bleak, and I wish I knew what that change could be that would help. but I don't see one coming this year. And I wouldn't be surprised if we do miss the playoffs for the first time.
Yeah.
Since Bob came.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, Mike, we played 2 games in the Jägermeister Cup, both losses. We're at 1.1 points per game in the league, which is even worse than the 1.4 that we had at the end of last season with that much better run towards the end of the season. Which, yes, we were winning games, but I think we were winning games because our defense was so solid and we were finding goals here and there. Not so much because we were going out and dominating teams. We weren't scoring 3-4 goals every other game. We were winning Bob Lilly typical, get a lucky goal and hold down the defense.
And it doesn't feel like this game, like it would be one thing if I thought like, oh, Bob doesn't care about the Jägermeister Cup, so he's not really taking these games seriously.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like that. Like this was a good lineup. This was pretty much a regular game. It felt like it did not feel like a Jägermeister game.
Only like 2 players that were changes. One of them you can look at Junior, Biasi, Barnes, whichever one coming in for Beto, are quality players that are in the mix for the first 11 every week, and changing the goalkeeper. I mean, everybody else that was on the field has been players that are accumulating many, many minutes throughout the season and our first choice players.
Yeah. So yeah, that's I was kind of going into this expecting a full lineup change and it being like, Bob doesn't really care about the Open or about the Jägermeister Cup. Who cares? But the fact that we did have a strong lineup made this loss really feel more impactful to me.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, to your point too, we now have 2 Jägermeister Cup games against USL League One opponents that mean absolutely nothing. So like the guys have to mentally prepare for that, where it's like, we've got to travel to Portland in a game that's completely meaningless and, spend resources there doing that. And it's just, you hate to see the team be in a situation like that early on. And Josh, to your point, I don't think that the mentality was we don't care about this. I think it was just more we didn't prepare for it in the way that you needed in order to get a result. And that's the part that's frustrating. That's the thing that keeps happening game after game.
What I sit back and wonder is I can see Bob not caring about this tournament, right? And going through or not, right? Like that he doesn't care about that. What he cares about is what he sees as continuous development. And so he puts the team out there because they're not worried about short rest, because he's looking for development, but the result to him doesn't really matter. Going on doesn't matter in this, right? And so is he upset that we lost the game because it means we are now effectively out of the Jägermeister Cup? I don't think he cares about that. I think he cares that we lost the game because the things that he wanted to happen didn't happen on the field. The result is irrelevant, though, in terms of Jägermeister Cup.
Yeah. 2 other like small bits, the certainties in life are what? Death, taxes, and refs being awful in the USL. This was a case where the ref was literally stopping I think there were 24 stoppages in the first half and 4 or 5 yellow cards. There
were a lot, but to hear that number is
it's insane.
Really rough.
It's insane. It literally neither team could really get into any kind of flow. So again, it's frustrating when you're not only just playing the other team, you're also having to play the ref. Did anyone else think, I know, Steve, I know that you and Chico are buddies. Did anyone else think that Chico was on the ground a lot in this game?
We made chants up about it. Let's just say that was not unnoticed by this.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I will say, shout out to Chico. He did, after the game was over, he came over and talked to the Steel Army, kind of like shook hands with people and like caught up with some of us. So, he didn't have to do that. And it was pretty cool that he came over.
Good.
Yeah. No, that was cool. I mean, I got to talk to him for 2 or 3 minutes and just like he was excited to be back, to see people. And as expected from him, like asking me about stuff in my life, not just talking soccer. There was a moment. I mean, one of the stoppages was on a set piece. I don't remember if it was a corner or one of the fouls, and Biasi was marking him, and the ref was unhappy with whatever was happening. I don't know what the ref took issue with. I don't think there was anything to take issue with. And he like comes running in, and it's like they're looking at each other, they're joking with each other, they got big grins on their face, right? Like, and it's like, ref, walk away. Like they're professionals, they know what they're doing, but look, you can also see they have a good relationship, right? Like, and they were like, yeah, yep, you're doing what you're doing, I'm doing what I'm doing, and that's how we play soccer. And there was no animosity in it, but like, that was frustrating to watch from the ref doing that, but fun to see them have that camaraderie, even though they're on different teams.
Yeah. There were a couple times that you could see Chico interacting with guys that that personally he's close with.
Yeah.
And it just makes you laugh because you could see not the persona that's on the field, but we talk to these guys all the time. And it's like the game within the game. And as soon as it's over, you shut it off and you're like good friends again. And it's not a thing. So yeah, as much as we hate seeing Chico play for another team, it is good to see that personal side of things.
And I joked with him. I was like, "You're wearing the wrong color," as he's wearing yellow. He's just like,
Guys, anything else about the game before we talk about sort of what happened after the game?
I'm trying to think. I didn't see the yellow card count. Who all got yellow cards? I'm just curious if Biasi got one or not.
I don't remember if Biasi got one. I know that Walty got one for something that was like insane, where it was clearly it wasn't even a foul, and the ref gave him a yellow card, and Walty went berserk over it, as he should have, but like was also then in danger of getting another one. So
yeah, okay, I just looked it up. Okay, yeah, Vactor got a yellow card, and so did Walty. So I'm kind of disappointed. And Biasi not getting that yellow card. Usually he's good for it. No yellow card. He got one last game before that against them, so I thought for sure. But I will say it is nice that Dequa didn't score on us. I mean, we did have to endure the assist from Dequa, but at least he didn't score on us.
Yeah.
I will say I do kind of like Biasi as a center back in a back three, which we played in this game. Steve, I know you were alluding to earlier this year how the goal is to try to get Etu further up the field, and it felt like we were playing more of a 3-4-3. It didn't result in anything different than what we've seen thus far. And I know that Luke likes to play further out wide to get more up the field, but I don't mind him in that spot. So yeah. Before we get into the post-match stuff, should we pick our top three?
Yeah,
I know it's not on the agenda. Josh, do you want to throw a name out there?
Mertz. I thought Mertz had a really good game. He was all passion, all like you could tell he was really putting it all out there. And I recognized that, and I thought he had a great game.
Steve?
So I am not as big of a fan of Biasi in the back three because I don't think it's his best skill set. So I was really hoping we were playing with a back four when I saw that lineup, and Junior was going to be playing much further up advanced. But I think he did like really, really well. And so he's definitely a player for me that shined throughout the night.
Biasi or Etu?
Yeah, Biasi.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm good with that on my list. Like I said, the only other one, I shouldn't say the only other one, but the one that really popped for me was Garcia. I don't know if you guys think he belongs in the top three, but do you have somebody else that you would include in his place?
It's always rough to put someone in the top three who didn't play a majority of the game. He came in the 67th minute. I will say Garcia has quickly risen up to like one of the top players that, at least as the Steel Army fan base, loves to see come in. Like as soon as Garcia comes in, everyone gets hyped. It helps that he's scoring some goals when we're severely lacking those, but also just like the passion as well with him and feeling like something different is about ready to happen instead of just watching triangle passes and long balls from the corner. So, it's kind of nice.
Yeah. I think for me, the other player that I think had a great night overall and did everything really, really well was Barnes. And he almost had the assist.
Yeah.
Do we want to go with Barnes, though, since he played the majority of the game?
I lean towards that.
Yeah, I'd be okay with Barnes.
Okay. So do we want to say Mertz at 1, Biasi 2, Barnes at 3?
For one, I definitely think it should be Mertz. I am less sure about the 2 and 3 numbering, but I'm fine with Biasi being 2.
Steve, any argument for Biasi not being 2?
No, I mean, I think they were relatively close. I think Biasi was asked to do something different and did it well. And so that gives him the edge for me.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So there we go. Mertz at 3 points, Biasi at 2, Barnes at 1. We will add it to the board, which I did not add last week's to the board, so I still need to do that.
Would have been 6 points if you would have got the header. I'm just saying.
I
would have argued for it.
Yeah, just give them all the points. So post-match, let's get into it just a little bit. Like I said, there's things that have happened that we will discuss. There's things that we won't discuss. But the most glaring thing was that the team did not come over and high-five the Steel Army after the fact, which kind of gets into, Laura Ellen's "Hey, sir" a little bit. Josh, can you sort of share any more details about sort of what happened after the game was over?
Yeah, it was a weird half measure thing that happened there. So it looked like the team, they kind of all got in a line, walked towards us like they were going to come all the way forward. And then they kind of just stopped and just cheered us on. And then kept on looking behind their backs the whole time. So it was kind of like a weird, like, all right, cool. So we just kept on singing our normal "We love you" chant. And then after about a minute of them cheering us on, they turned around and then let the kids on. I will also note that the post-game tantrum that usually happens with Bob was really short. It was like, I think 5 minutes long. We didn't even get a chance to time it. So that was interesting as well.
And reports are that the team was specifically instructed not to come high five the Steel Army and was to just clap them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even think they were supposed to clap us. I think they were actually just, keep the clock moving and get the people on the field as soon as possible.
Okay. Steve, the gut reactions on that?
It seems to me, based on that, the reports that the team was told not to come over, and someone that I was talking to inside the organization talking about witnessing a pretty poor response from Bob towards a fan very recently. That the breakdown between the fans and Bob is going to cause some sort of dissatisfaction. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious to the three of us, to anybody listening from the Steel Army, that the Steel Army did not take that well. And I think that for me, it's just like, I don't know what you're thinking. I mean, as you said, we talked a lot behind the scenes about the impacts of that and whatnot. I am skeptical personally that even if the Steel Army were to boycott games, that I don't think it moves the needle enough, because is that going to change sponsorship dollars? No. Is that going to change ticket sales in the grandstand? No. And so I think that the reality is that Bob is on thin ice with the fan base. But I don't know what it takes for Tuffy to make the decision that this isn't sustainable anymore. I think there's a lot of people really frustrated with what we're seeing. And a lot of us that have been frustrated for years, but we've been winning and we've been getting into the playoffs. And then we're having the conversation, okay, we need to do better in the playoffs. This year feels really different, especially after last year. But I just am scratching my head, asking the question of, okay, so what has to change at this point? I don't know personally what has to change, and I don't know that I have the faith that stuff will change.
Yeah. To sort of like take the 30,000 foot view, Laura Ellen did drop the Lily out. I know that there have been other publications and shows that have insinuated a similar kind of thing. We've had the conversation ourselves where it's just like, is this the point? Does Lily come back next year? I don't know. And the gist is that there may have been some hurt because of that. But I also think that We have been around since, I'll say, long before Lily got here. And my gut is that we'll probably be still doing this after Lily is no longer here, one way or another. And it's more about the club than it is one individual.
Mm-hmm.
And, there have been trends in the past that we have seen in terms of the way players are treated, the way that fans are treated. And it almost feels like this is getting to a head where I don't know how it continues. And so there is some piece of this, like we said, that we're just going to kind of sit back and wait, because it feels like something is going to have to happen. You cannot have a animosity type relationship between a manager and a fan base in a way that is going to impact potentially ticket sales, potentially support, because the Steel Army has been here for 20 years. And like I said, we'll continue to be here in theory. And unfortunately, the players are kind of stuck in the middle. Like we're sort of getting reports that there's not a lot of happiness within the team as well. And Steve, the point you made earlier, Bob built the team. So like there's kind of that you can kind of point the finger at too.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Josh, what am I missing here? Like, is there anything else that we should add at this point?
I mean, with my position on the board, I do get privy to some information for the Steel Army, but like, honestly, a lot of it is just behind the scenes, like communication breakdowns between the front office and the supporters. And like, it sucks because we obviously all want this organization to succeed. Like, that's why we're here. And Pittsburgh, City of Champions, Riverhounds have none. Like there's never been a championship in trophy for the Riverhounds, and they're one of the oldest teams in the league. And so that is a big glaring issue, and it's something that we all had high hopes that Bob could change. And the fact that he's made the playoffs, like, kind of kept us going. Like, all right, we got this. It's gonna happen. It just hasn't. And it's been, how many years now? 6-7 years with Bob's. 8? Is it 8 now?
Isn't this his 8th season?
Crikey. So it's been 8 years. It hasn't happened. And like at some point, there's a breaking point, and it's. I feel like we're getting towards that, because that's what he was brought in to do, and that's one of the biggest issues. And if you want to, point out anything why growth hasn't happened as much as you would expect for the Riverhounds, and they've had some in the last couple of years, but I will say, like, getting that player shield was a big deal. That was really great, but it wasn't the goal. Like, that wasn't why he was brought in here. And I feel like Pittsburghers, especially, are fickle fan base. They expect greatness, and we just haven't gotten it.
Hey, I think there's one other thing that I think about as I hear you talking about that, Josh, that for me, and I think for a lot of people, part of this frustration is I'm going into every game at this point, not asking myself the question of, can we win? It's, can we not lose? And maybe we can win. And if we had the same number of points, but we were going into every game and I felt like, oh man, that game got away from us, but we scored 3 goals, right? Like it felt like, yeah, that's disappointing, but like we could have won that. It would feel really, really different. When I don't expect to see the team win, like, it doesn't feel good. And I don't think I'm alone in that feeling.
And I think, if you were even to go back 2 or 3 seasons ago, there were probably a handful of teams that if we went up against them, we would say, okay, like, they have a shot at beating us. But the majority of teams, we would go in and comfortably be like, we're going to beat them. I can't say with any certainty right now that there's any team in the league that I feel confident that we're going to go and steamroll, because I don't think it's going to happen. Drew put together some charts that I'll sort of throw up on screen here, and we can share these online as well. The first one is kind of the points per match over the past, 5 seasons. And currently in 2025, we're at our lowest points per match Steve, I think you alluded to it. It's like a 1.1 at this point. In 2022, when we had a pretty good season, we were flirting with 2 points per match by 10 games in the season. So we're basically a whole point off of that pace from the 2022 season. And this is our lowest points per match that we've had in the past 5 years.
And what's wild about that, if you go back, is it looks like every year we get worse. Because 2025 is our worst, 2024 was second worst, 2023 third worst. Only 2021 and 2022 are reversed. So that's not a good trend line either.
Yeah. When you extrapolate that over the course of the season, Josh, to your point, I think it's similar, if not the same, where, by this point, 10 games into the season in 2022, we had 19 points. We currently have 11, which is our lowest total in the past 5 years. So this is a trend that we're seeing where it's not just like this is a fluke, this is just a one-off season. We're consistently underperforming the peaks of where we were a few years ago. And then finally, if you kind of look at the goal total over the course of the first 10 games, it should be no surprise. We have 9 goals in our first 10 games, whereas in that 2022 season, we had 18. We had twice as many goals at that point. So this isn't a sentiment that I think we as sort of podcasters can often be rightly accused of being somewhat short-sighted and reactionary, where it's like we have a great game and we're like, we're going to beat the world. And then we have a bad game and it's like, everybody out. Justin is probably one of the few of us that has more of a long-term thing. And he feels very strongly about what happened last night. We will get his thoughts probably in the prediction show on Friday. But this is a disheartening trend. And I think that the longer it continues, the more toxic this could end up becoming for fans, for players, for everybody. And we'll just kind of see how it plays out. I guess there's a number of things that can happen on either side. And I'm sure there will be things that happen on either side if nothing changes. But at this point, that's kind of, I think, what we have to say on that. Do you guys have any sort of closing thoughts on all of that?
I appreciate you talking about Justin in that, because we've all known Justin a long time. In a previous iteration, Justin and I were doing a preview show, and you're right. Justin is extremely good at seeing that long-term picture. I think better than some of the rest of us are. This is the first time I've ever seen a response that so early from him that is so concerning about the team. And that to me is troubling. If my emotions are taken out of it and I'm looking at just what Justin is saying, I'm more worried.
Josh, we're supposed to be coming up with a positive way to end this. Or, it's all in all, it is still early. There's plenty of time for things. Not plenty. There is time for things to get turned around, to mend fences, to, everyone be pushing for the same thing here. And right now it feels like majority of different people are pushing against one person, and that person is, fighting everyone off. So like, I would love it not to be that way. I think we can all be pushing towards the same thing, and it's just, mutual respect needs to be had.
Yeah. I think that's a great way to wrap this up, Josh. Let's go into Mondo's moment, and then we will throw to Liz and Kaz, and then we'll be back to wrap this all up.
It's time for Mondo's moment, the top moment of the game from the Mandalorian.
This week, there are a pair of Mondo moments. The first comes from the Riveters, when in the 20th minute, Tessa De La Rose forces the save by Flower City's goalkeeper. Alexis Tylenda is there to clean up the rebound and score the first ever goal at home for the Pittsburgh Riveters. This is the way. Next up for the Riverhounds versus Rhode Island FC. In the 16th minute, Perrin Barnes crosses into the box to find the head of Robbie Mertz. Unfortunately, the ball comes off the post. Not a goal, but brilliant play. This is the way.
This has been Mondo's moment.
Hi, everybody. We're trying something new because we have a new team and they deserve their own attention. So I'm Liz Brokaw, and I have Kaz with me. Kaz, you know all of the things about the Riveters, so I'll need some help. But we have 2 games to talk about. Are you ready?
Yes, as ready as I can be.
How many times have you watched the games?
I watched them live, and then I watched them again this morning.
Kaz is an overachiever.
There's about 5 minutes left on the Flower City game.
All right, so Cleveland. That was
Yes.
an away game that got moved from Tuesday to Wednesday. We
Yes.
had a couple of people go up for it. Unfortunately, schedules didn't allow for as many people as we wanted for travel, which was kind of sad. I mean, we can jump right in. It was a devastating loss, quite frankly, as far as I'm concerned. The 2 halves were so different. What were your takeaways? Takeaways from the first half versus the second half?
Yeah, I think the first half, they looked really good. It was a lot more cohesive. I mean, it was basically like the first half of the Flower City game last weekend. Just, clearly the better team, dominating possession, obviously 2 goals, just far and away the better team. And then, the second half, Cleveland seemed to have made a formation change. It looked like they kind of went back to a back 3, which seemed like it was something that Scott wasn't expecting.
Yeah, and I think that because of the first Flower City game, when we traveled, I think that I currently feel like there is a disconnect between these players' natural talent to receive the ball in turn and make quick plays, and Scott's obvious want to slow the game down once they're ahead. And it feels like that's what happened on Tuesday, or Wednesday, quite frankly.
Yeah, it definitely felt like they wanted to keep playing in a way and didn't really. I mean, it's hard with such a short season, preseason, I think, for big tactical switches like that to really be able to be effectively implemented. It can be, kind of a toss up. But, I think not to get ahead of ourselves, but I think it did work out a bit better in the second game that we'll be talking about from Friday. So, I agree. It felt like both Flower City and the Cleveland game had the same problems.
Yeah, I would agree. And yet here we are watching, I mean, the women play so strongly, and I don't feel like there's even watching them go down and, goals being scored on them when they were so dominant on a first half. I don't feel as if there's any give up. There's no loss in gumption. It does make the top 3 very hard for me in a way that the men's side has not currently made the top 3 hard for me. I want to give it to a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like for that game, given the second half, my top 3 I feel like ended up kind of becoming obvious. Normally I would have, I personally think I'm very much want to give flowers to the defense and goalkeeping maybe more often than most people do. But I think in that game it's hard to give them their flowers because of that second half. I would say the first 60 minutes or so, the defense and certainly like Piper would deserve to be in the top 3 and that kind of thing. But just then those obviously the PKs, you kind of write that off. I watching it again, I don't understand how that was called. It looked like very incidental contact, and just the referee had a good look at it and said that's a penalty.
That the reffing on the Cleveland game was not my favorite. It was kind of haphazard. There didn't seem to be a lot of control, and I don't appreciate that. I agree with you. I think that also the way that our defense plays with our midfield is relatively complementary, even when they're not truly overlapping. I think that when we talk about stuff, Desora and D'Amico frequently come up in the same sentences, even if they're not passing to each other, just because their style of play is so complementary. And I think that, unfortunately, I don't think that Desora can get any. You're right, can't get any accolades for the Cleveland game. And it did become more obvious just because of how it ended up playing out. But those are the sticks. So for our top three, we previously discussed this, so we won't have as much discussion as sometimes Mongols does. But I mean, Talinda at number one just makes so much sense.
For her first game to go 90 minutes to get the goal and the assist, she looked good even aside from those. It's hard to argue against her being.
It was very hard. Yeah. Neighbors as our number two. She's got the second goal. Just very solid play, always being in spots that made her dangerous. And she read the field much better than I feel like a lot of the players did for that game. So we talked about her a lot as we were watching the game. Yeah.
I mean, I think that's been the case, I think, for her through all 4 games so far, but this was kind of the game that she finally got that goal and, was kind of able to put herself on top like that.
I don't know if I would think it was all 4 games. Like, I think that I've talked about her, but I don't think she was not so positionally aware as she was in this Cleveland game for me. In the first 2 games, they were. Personally,
I think that she, again, she is one of the few that aren't part of the RDA. She doesn't have that history. So her, taking time to kind of gel with this team more so than some of the other players is not that surprising to me. But I think overall she has been a good point if she hasn't been able to, get the goals yet until that game.
Yeah, I don't think there's no doubt that she can play or that she has huge potential for the goals. And especially like these last 2 games for sure. I think that she's shown some poise. And then we ended with D'Amico for the assist. And like I said, moments ago, I talk about her all of the time when we're watching. She runs through that midfield, just like she's a back and forth player in a way that exhausts me as someone who does not play soccer and would never run even to save my own life.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, she's a constant threat, typically coming down the right, but she'll randomly pop up in places and it's like, how did she even get there?
Overall, I think the game plays very fast. What do you think about the tactics that have been shown thus far, and especially in the Cleveland game?
I think overall, the tactics it's very fast paced. It's, it's a lot of, I think the announcers described it as suffocating during the Cleveland game, and especially in that first half, and, on the defense. And I think that's, accurate. They don't let the other team, when they're on their game, they don't let the other team have a moment of peace. And, they're just, if they lose the ball, they're right there trying to recover it. And it's fun to watch at the end of the day. And
it is fun to watch.
That's something relatively new for us.
We're so glad that we have the Riveters to watch right now on many levels. Glad to have a women's team. Glad to have, dynamic players and the play on the field. It's fascinating. It's so different. And I come in as someone who doesn't know a lot about tactics or hasn't ever talked about, tactics very heavily. So getting pulled into a completely different style it's a learning curve for me for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Even the way they set up, it's typically in a 4-2-3-1. It's just a little more attacking than I think we're just used to in Pittsburgh right now. And it just the quality shows, and it's just very high paced and fun.
I'm going to pull on the string where you're talking about when they give away the ball and move on to the Flower City game, because I think for me, that is the first game where I don't feel like they just gave away the ball all over the field. So the first 3 games, I was like, man, we're really good at grabbing a ball and getting off a quick shot, but we are also really good at not completing that shot and giving the other team so many opportunities. And I think Flower City home is the first one where I felt like the control of the ball was starting to show. Like these women didn't have a lot of time to practice together. So this isn't really surprising. We didn't have any preseason games. How did you feel do you think there was more control in the Flower City game, or am I just, dreaming?
No, I do think there was definitely more control in the Flower City game. There were a lot less kind of giveaways that we've, you and I have talked about in the past, and just that have been kind of obvious and rampant through these first few games. And they definitely were able to control the ball a lot better. And when they did give up the ball, whether it be, through a giveaway or whatever, they were very quick to get back on defense and to get the ball back themselves and start pushing again.
I will say it was a truly miserable game for the Steel Army. It was maybe 55 degrees by the time we hit kickoff, and the rain was heavy. Multiple people were like, "Oh, do you think they'll call the game? Like, it's raining really bad." I was like, "This is soccer." They're like, "Well, but for baseball," and I was like, "We would never. There's no chance of lightning. We're gonna A, play the game, and the Steel Army is B, going to be in the stands." It made it hard to concentrate on the game also like the visibility was so far down. But one thing that I think that I noticed within the first 20 minutes, the women have either better cleats or better agility, because that slippy field did not phase them. They weren't making a mess of the field. They weren't, going down. Like they were playing so hard, and it was still so fast on a field that I thought would have really changed on what they did. What was your biggest takeaway from the game, do you think, overall?
Yeah, I mean, the fact that Flower City showed some of those signs of being, struggling with the rain and the wet and the cold and everything, and the Riveters didn't. I think it just, something about this game, I don't know what it is, something about this game, they clearly stepped up and, were able to kind of take advantage of the elements, for whatever reason, being in their favor.
Yeah.
It just seemed to work out perfectly for them. It was something else to see.
One of my favorite things is Josh realized just how petite Vozar is. And he's like, I didn't realize that she's literally at most people's shoulders. And I was like, right, but don't get in her way, because she will take you out. Legitimately, right now, Bella Vozar is my favorite player. I think she is a monster for her size, but she uses her agility and maybe she takes judo or something. I think she would flip someone over her shoulder given half a chance.
Yeah, no, absolutely. She's just a firecracker. She just seems, it's just nonstop. She's constantly going. Don't get in her way. I mean, she got that yellow card in Cleveland because she just went through a player's back. Basically, she was
unfazed too.
Yes, absolutely.
I was so glad when she came off the field.
At halftime for that game. Yes.
I was like, get her off the field.
She's going to go through somebody else and get sent off.
I know. And it's so different from like Cofield stands her ground, right? She is there and she uses her space. And whereas Vozar will get into your space. And I think it really messes with people's heads in a way that is different.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and the fact that she's so good in the offense as well, she's good on that defense. She's going to fight and hustle every minute of the game. But then at the same time, once she gets an opening and she gets open and running on that right side, she put in a lot of great crosses. She has every game much. but last night or Friday night, there were just a lot of, good plays from her just constantly.
Yeah. Seeing her as a defender is weird to me. I would definitely have called her like a mid. Like she's
Yeah.
just, I mean, she plays back for sure. Absolutely. But the way that she's involved in plays is just so different for me. And it made, again, like having a fun game to watch made that rain just a little bit more bearable.
Yes. Well, and I think that that's something about this team is set up clearly to, Piper and Desora have to hold down that back line because the two outside backs just push so high. I mean, whether it's Abby Hugh or Lucia Wells on the left side, Bella on the right, they're constant. If they have the ball, they're in the attacking third.
Yeah.
It's like they're not staying back like that. And but then they have the speed too when the ball gets turned over to get back, and they're tenacious enough that they're just going to plow through you in the way.
Yeah. So so this game ended in a tie, right? It was 0-0. And just, do you think that was the weather? That with our, both of the sides pushing forward, like you were just talking about, that does leave our defense kind of open. And is that something that we worry about? Do we think the weather gave us a little bit of luck and we just handled it better? Or do you think that there's a change in how they're planning the defense?
I mean, after those 2 goals, I think it was just a different animal. And, especially that goal going into halftime, it was just like you were able to then kind of lock down. And it felt like in the second half, they were a little less, adventurous than they normally are. And as we saw in that Flower City game, the first game, they still were pushing high and then got beat a couple of times on the counter. That was, that's when we gave up those late goals. But on Friday, it felt like they were just a little more solid and didn't quite push as high as they normally do. And that might have just been the difference between letting in a goal or 2 at the end and getting the 3 points.
Yeah, and you're right. I totally said a 0-0, and that was not the score. You kindly just moved along, but I will fully admit, friends, that's not the final score. It was 2-0. What do I know?
Yes.
Not nearly enough. That's the answer. Well, I mean, it's good to see them sit back a little bit more when they need to and when they have the space. I distinctly remember Scotty yelling, "Take it to the corner, slow the game down." And it's just, I don't think that they're physically or mentally capable of that. They need to be moving or else we open ourselves up.
Yeah, they're like sharks. They have to constantly be moving. But I think they were able to be like, they didn't, in that on the away Flower City game, that he was, he wanted them to run into the corner and kill time and that kind of thing. And that clearly just wasn't in their nature. Whereas I think in this game, they were able to just possess a little more. They weren't trying to play it up into the corner and slow the game down and that kind of thing. They were still playing with pace, just not, trying to get forward as much. And even then, in the last few minutes, there were a few corners and that kind of thing. They could have easily grabbed a third late in that game because Flower City started to open up a little bit more, because they wanted to get the goals to at least get a point out of that game. And they were able to hold off and, stay solid in the back.
Yeah, I think the better passes really did them a world of good in that you didn't get frustrated at the end of the game. They weren't chasing things down. So I took on the task of presenting our top 3 for Cleveland. You want to go ahead with those for Flower City?
Yeah. So it was tough for me. We talked about it the other day, and then when I rewatched, I kind of tore up my list and went back. For me, this game, so when we talked before, I had put Paulina's third. I moved her up for this game after watching the replay to 1. She really only had, the amount of time that she plays with the ball at her feet, it can be risky, playing out of the back like that. There was really only one time that she kind of gave up the ball the entire game, and even then they were able to collapse, solidly. She had a great save in, I think it was like the 10th minute or something, right, really early in the game to keep it 0-0 to start the game. She could have easily given up a goal there. So I had her as number one. I'm open to changing that. I did have Olivia DeVito as second, because she had that great goal. She, again, as we said with the Cleveland game, she's just everywhere. She made a perfect run for her goal, just like sitting right on the back line, holding up until the ball was played to her. And then for number three, I put Piper, just for being so defensively solid. This was definitely a lot tougher than the Cleveland game for me in terms of ratings, because everyone looked good. It was just, it's hard to narrow it down to a top three.
Yeah, I think I would. I think I need D'Amico at one. Like that, it just meant so much to have it, the game, to get the game going. Do you know what I mean? And to give opportunities, to have that goal. But I can do Nels at two, as our number two. I think that makes a lot of sense. And to not get in your own head about letting up goals previously. Probably like a lot more organization, to be talking to your back line more. I don't feel like I saw a lot of that in the first couple of games. And so getting that communication style going and figuring that out. And then again, Caulfield, she just stands there and she is a force.
Yes.
Like if you know that you have to run anywhere near her, you're like, that's her space. And so
Yes.
I'm okay
Absolutely.
with, if you're okay with D'Amico, Nels, and then Caulfield.
That's fine with me. Yeah.
And then I don't know if we need the board or if Mike's going to add it to his board. We'll figure out the board situation someday.
Some other time. That'll be,
yeah.
We'll figure it out at some point.
Do you have any other, the season is so short and this feels so fast. Also, this is our first show. So I feel like, there's a lot of momentum here and pressure, but how are we feeling right now? What do you feel about this women's team?
I am as of right now, I'm cautiously optimistic. I think with the men, it's hard to feel truly optimistic all the time. So, it feels like in the back of my head, something's going to go wrong, but just the way that they've been playing is so exciting. I think that I do think that they're going to end up getting that top spot in this division. Looking at the rest of our season, it's pretty much all downhill from here, like in terms of the quality of opponent.
Okay.
Steel City's had 2 great games to start the year, but I think that they've been overplaying their quality. But I think between them, Erie, and Buffalo, I think those are the bottom 3, and Flower City and us are the top 3. So I think them being the rest of our season is good for us, and it's kind of all we're all going to just get momentum from here, is my hope.
I'm here for the momentum. I came in knowing so little about the rest of the league, and I was like, look at all these players, and you're like, calm down, Liz. Other people have played together before and we're brand new. And I was like, oh
yes,
my bad. Consistency, what do I know?
So every other team in our division except for us, has played together. Most of them, all of them except for Cleveland, are new to USL, but every other team has had a team in previous years, and including returning players. So so the fact that first game was rough and getting used to each other, and the last those 2 games after looked good to start and had iffy moments in the end, I think that is just part of the learning curve. And I think Friday night was kind of the stamp of like, all right, we're here, we're ready to go. This is the rest of the season.
That's the rest of the season, guys. We're gonna win the league. That's how it goes.
Obviously.
If you don't agree with us, you can let Mike know, because I'm not going to hear it. If you do agree with us, you can come up to us at any game, and we will gladly talk about how amazing this is and how much fun it is to watch the Riveters.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I guess we'll talk to you in a week or something.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, thanks, Liz and Kaz, for your thoughts on the Rivs. This is a new sort of segment that we're trying out. This might end up becoming its own show. Let us know what you think. If you think that we should separate the Riv stuff from the Riverhounds stuff, maybe we'll do that. Maybe we'll just make it its own show. But do share your thoughts, guys. Any kind of closing thoughts on this one before we get out of here?
I'm so upset that Rivs is probably going to be the thing that we call them.
Would you should it just be Riveters? Do you
I personally think Riveters sounds much better than Rivs. I don't know. Rivs doesn't feel good in my mouth. I don't know. Rivs. I don't like it. I don't like it. It sounds weird. I don't like it. Riveters sound better. But at the same time, like we want like every team, we always shorten a name. And I get that in like a nickname. One syllable helps. I can't think of anything better than Rivs, unfortunately. And that makes me sad. We also have this issue with chants. We're all like, oh, we're doing these chants. It's like Rivs because like, yeah, that works. But there's just, yeah.
Would it make you feel better, Josh, if we always referred to them as at least the Riveters on here, similar to how we're moving towards like men and women and not like guys and ladies? Like we could make it a Mongols thing where it's always Riveters.
I will get my soapbox and I will.
Okay, cool.
Let's call them the Riveters officially.
Okay, Riveters officially. Steve, any closing thoughts?
I'm really enjoying watching the Riveters. They're a lot of fun to watch, and it's just really good soccer. I mean, even the Wednesday night game, they still were fun to watch. So, yeah.
I'm hoping to be able to talk to one of the women on Tuesday. We'll see when that show would actually drop. Their schedule makes it really crazy. We tried to line up something earlier this week, and then it fell through. So I don't know who. But if you have any requests or you have any questions for any of the players in particular, feel free to send them over. You guys know how to get at us, mongols3@gmail.com. We're on Blue Sky. We're on Instagram. We kind of post stuff on Twitter, but not really. YouTube, you can leave a comment on this video if you're watching it on YouTube or just on YouTube in general on the channel. We can respond to it there. Otherwise, I think that's it for this one. Thank you guys for joining me. Thanks to Liz and Kaz. Thanks to Laura, Ellen, and Mondo, who continually submit sort of the shorts that we make part of the show. It's a lot of fun. And we just appreciate all the support. So thanks, everybody. We'll be back with more Hounds and Riveters content for you very, very soon.
Later.
See ya.